And we're back. We're still talking about politics, but we want to discuss the campaign, the leadership, and what's going on in politics. And I want to put to you, the Liberal, about Mr. Carney, because he is saying now policies virtually 180 degrees contrary to what he was saying 6 months ago, or even maybe 6 weeks ago, particularly with the carbon tax. And he's telling Canadians, I stopped the carbon tax, but he's increased the carbon tax on business. Business and companies are not going to say, oh, well, more tax, we'll just suck it up. They're going to pass it on to the consumer.
Listen, and that's an interesting comment to make. And I think, you're not putting any credit, you're not giving any credit to business to say, and this happened years and years and years ago when Jim Bradley was the Minister of Environment in the province of Ontario. He said, I'm going to incentivize businesses for putting good scrubber technology to whittle down on the amount of pollution they're putting into the air. If you're a business and
pollution, and that worked.
It worked, and it could work again. So if you want to avoid the tax, you're going to do better at investing in anti-pollutive technology, and that's going to happen.
But he's changing his spots. He was saying to every bank, you can't finance businesses or companies when they have, they're polluting. And now he's saying, something different.
This government it might be the same Liberal government, but it's a different culture. When you have right now a government that says we've listened to the people and the carbon tax is not sellable, so it's off the table.
Well, it's interesting.
Can they get away with that?
Well, it's interesting because Pierre Poilievre announced yesterday that if the Conservatives are elected, they will drop the carbon tax off industry because, again, it's a regressive tax.
So in a world where we're trying to compete with the Americans and with the rest of the world, and we're dealing with these tariffs, we're debating whether or not we're going to not only have tariffs, but taxes on top of it. When I talk about the government getting out of the way, at what point does someone who puts up and risks their life and their livelihood, because you've put a lot of money on your line for your business to get that started, entrepreneurs that take risks, at what point do they actually get to stop being treated like 19th century twirly mustached capitalists and actually be able to make a dollar for all their risks, for all the people that they employ?
Can we do that in Canada, do you think? That's not the Canadian tradition.
Well, Dudley Do-Right was always saving Tess Pure Heart, or whatever the young woman's name was, from Snidely Whiplash, who was a twirly mustached villain.
As a conservative, partisan, can your party propose that? Is that something that will sell in Canada, to have less government, get government out of business?
There's no question. I mean, if you take the three levels of government, and we were discussing this earlier today, they keep adding it. So about 64% of a new home or condo building now is the amount of cost a developer has to do before a shovel goes into ground. Or I met a gentleman at a factory tour recently who works for Metrolinx in Toronto, and he said in the last 10 years...
Nice to have lifetime employment at Metrolinx. Sorry,
well,
go on.
What he does their underground work, and he said we end up having to add a lot of cost to what we submit because it takes 50% more time than it did 10 years ago to meet all the municipal regulatory, let alone provincial.
Well, we just have lots of government, lots of regulation, and Trudeau added 100,000 more civil servants to Ottawa to look at you and you and you and make sure you're on the right path.
Look twice at him.
I think too, and what I'm not hearing out of your leader are things like what is he going to do about things like critical minerals? My party, to be very blunt, has made it very clear that this is something that we could do very well, and we can incentivize those that are in the business to get in the processing and sales
of critical. Get out of the way of somebody who wants to make a mine, because usually your party,
whatever the issue is, it doesn't mean that government is the answer.
No, and that's true. And
we're not looking for our savior here. We're looking for peace, order, and good government.
And that's what we get. That's what we have.
Well,
my point is, if you look at it from this perspective, you've got.
Have you looked outside? We're not at peace. We're in the middle of a trade war, and that's
where we need good leadership right now. You need good regulatory leadership. You need good policy leadership. You need good politics. And I think we're getting that right now with a new leader. You're seeing it because the polls have changed fundamentally. You guys were 23 points ahead, and now we're almost ahead of you.
I think the three of you should get a riding and run in this coming election, because Canada will be well served if the three of you were in Parliament. And thank you very much. Great discussion.